Johnnie Otis Jackson was born on January 30th, 1971, in the small town of Hamilton, New Jersey, in the United States. Coming from very humble beginnings, he never really looked like someone destined to become one of the most respected names in modern bodybuilding. Even so, from an early age, his dense frame and uncommon strength already stood out, long before the bright lights of the big stages. Over the years, Johnnie built a truly unique reputation in the sport. Unlike many athletes who focused purely on aesthetics, he became known for combining extreme muscle mass, raw density, and a level of strength that impressed even seasoned veterans. Because of that, his name became associated not just with size, but with real, physical brutality, something rare at the highest professional level. One of Johnnie's biggest differentiators was his ability to operate in two worlds at the same time. While competing as a professional bodybuilder in the IFBB, he was also deeply committed to powerlifting. Very few athletes have managed to perform at a high level in both disciplines, and that only added to the respect surrounding his name. Physically, Johnnie became especially famous for an upper body that many considered among the best of his generation. Extremely thick back, wide lats, massive traps, and dense arms created an unmistakable silhouette. Even when other aspects of his physique drew criticism, his upper body was always seen as his calling card. Johnnie's competitive journey began in the NPC amateur circuit, one of the main gateways to professional bodybuilding in the United States. From his very first appearances, he already stood apart from the rest, not just because of his size, but because of his muscle density and the obvious strength visible in every pose on stage. The major turning point came in 2001, when Johnnie won the NPC Nationals. This victory wasn't just another trophy on his resume. It was the moment that earned him his coveted IFBB Pro card. From that point on, he stopped being just a prospect and officially joined the elite of world bodybuilding. His professional debut came the following year, in 2002, at the GNC Show of Strength. He placed 10th, far from the top spots, but the visual impact was immediate. Even without fighting for the title, Johnnie left that contest as one of the most talked about athletes of the event. The reason was obvious. His physique didn't follow the refined aesthetic standard that dominated the era. While many competitors chased cleaner, more classic lines, Johnnie brought an extremely dense body, massive traps, a thick torso, and an almost intimidating look. It was a physique that communicated real strength, not just visual appeal. That contrast ended up working in his favor. Sponsors, fans, and insiders began to see him as something different within the sport. In 2003, Johnnie reached a milestone that only a few ever achieve. His debut at the Mr. Olympia, the biggest and most demanding stage in bodybuilding. He finished in 11th place. A solid result for an athlete facing, for the first time, the best physiques on the planet under the sport's brightest spotlight. From that moment on, Johnnie became a consistent presence on the professional circuit, something very few athletes managed to sustain for so long. Year after year, he returned to the Olympia, showing longevity, physical and mental resilience, and a rare ability to remain competitive in a constantly evolving landscape. Beyond the Olympia, his presence became common at some of the most important events on the professional calendar. Competitions like the Arnold Classic, Ironman Pro, Night of Champions, and several international Grand Prix events became part of his routine. That consistency cemented his reputation as a reliable competitor, always dangerous in any lineup. Of course, his career wasn't free from criticism. Johnnie's legs were often pointed out as his weakest area, especially when compared to the aesthetic standard demanded at the very top of the sport. On the other hand, his overwhelmingly dominant upper body often balanced the scales in judging. A thick back, wide lats, and an impressive combination of shoulders, arms, and traps guaranteed him something essential in professional bodybuilding: undeniable stage presence. The year 2006 marked a definitive turning point in Johnnie's career. That was when he earned his first major professional victory by winning the Montreal Pro. More than just a trophy, that result served as validation. Johnnie wasn't just a strong athlete with an imposing look. He was also someone who knew how to win. The victory at the Montreal Pro completely changed how judges, fellow athletes, and fans viewed him. From that point on, his name was no longer associated only with extreme strength. it started to carry real respect in title conversations. He was no longer seen as a dangerous outsider, but as a legitimate contender at the top of any competition. During that same stretch, between 2006 and 2007, Johnnie continued to prove his consistency by securing other major results, including the title at the Atlantic City Pro. Those wins confirmed something crucial in professional bodybuilding. This wasn't a one-time peak, but a solid and competitive phase of his career. With those results, Johnnie Jackson became the kind of athlete nobody could ignore in a lineup. Even when he wasn't listed as the favorite, there was always the feeling that he could shock everyone. His presence on stage forced other competitors to bring their absolute best. At the Mr. Olympia, the impact of this strong phase showed up clearly in the standings. His best finish was 9th place, achieved more than once, a highly respectable result considering the historic level of competition at the Olympia. And there's something especially interesting about Johnnie's path. While many athletes focused exclusively on aesthetics, he chose a different route. Alongside his professional bodybuilding career, he competed seriously in powerlifting, treating strength as something practical, measurable, and real. This wasn't stage strength, but strength tested under strict rules, judges, and extreme loads. The numbers Johnnie put up shocked even dedicated strength athletes. Bench presses over 230 kilograms, roughly 500 pounds, and deadlifts exceeding 370 kilograms, while over 800 pounds, placed him in an extremely rare category. For comparison, these are numbers many pure powerlifters never reach in their careers. That reputation peaked in 2009 during the Mr. Olympia with the challenge known as the world's strongest professional bodybuilder. There, Johnnie stepped into a direct bench press and deadlift showdown, something unprecedented at that level of exposure within bodybuilding. In that matchup, he defeated Ben White, officially earning the title of strongest professional bodybuilder in the world. It wasn't just a symbolic win. It was a defining moment that cemented his image as the true bridge between bodybuilding and competitive brute strength. A year later, the record would be surpassed by Stan Ferding, but that did nothing to diminish the impact of what Johnnie had accomplished. A huge part of the aura surrounding Johnnie Jackson was built away from the stage, inside the gym. He trained at the legendary Metroflex gym in Texas, a place famous for embracing extreme intensity, pain, and brutally heavy weights. It was the perfect environment for Johnnie's training philosophy. By his side was another symbol of raw brutality in bodybuilding, Branch Warren. Together, they formed one of the most iconic training duos in modern bodybuilding history. As the internet and YouTube grew, those training sessions went global. Videos of Johnnie handling 90 kilograms dumbbells, about 200 pounds, squatting with 6 plates on each side, and attacking leg presses loaded with over 450 kilograms, more than 1,000 pounds, spread rapidly. For many fans, it almost looked unreal. Those images weren't just impressive, they were inspiring. They shattered the idea that bodybuilding was only about aesthetics or rehearsed posing. Johnnie showed the raw side of the sport, where strength, sacrifice, and pain walk side by side. One of the most remarkable aspects of Johnnie Jackson's career was his ability to keep evolving over time. While many athletes begin to decline after turning 40, Johnnie went in the opposite direction. His physique became denser, more mature, and visually more imposing, especially in his upper body. Throughout the 2010s, that evolution translated into real results. Johnnie picked up 4 professional wins, proving he wasn't competing just for nostalgia or visibility. He was still, very clearly, an athlete capable of winning at a high level, even while facing younger, more physically gifted generations. 2 of those victories came in 2017, making that year especially symbolic. One of them stood out in particular, the Arnold Classic South Africa, a heavyweight event on the professional circuit. Receiving the trophy directly from Arnold Schwarzenegger himself was a moment very few athletes ever experience. It felt like the greatest icon in bodybuilding history wasn't just acknowledging a single win, but recognizing an entire career built on consistency, strength, and longevity. Even after decades of competition, Johnnie Jackson maintained elite levels of muscle mass, density, and strength. His body didn't just tell the story of titles. It told the story of durability and resistance against time. After a long, Intense career marked by both highs and lows, Johnnie Jackson officially announced his retirement from the stage at the end of the 2017 season. For many fans, it felt like the natural conclusion to a heavy journey, forged through decades of brutal training, grueling competitions, and a body constantly pushed to its limits. Even away from competition, Johnnie never truly stepped away from the sport. He kept training hard, maintaining an impressive physique, while also getting involved in amateur event promotion and serving as a brand ambassador. He wasn't chasing relevance. He was simply a veteran who never abandoned the routine that defined his entire life. As time passed, rumors started to circulate. After the 2019 Mr. Olympia, fans began to speculate. Was Johnnie preparing for a comeback? His physique was still too big, too dense, and too strong for someone who was truly retired. Social media images only fueled that curiosity even more. The confirmation came in an official and surprising way. Johnnie Jackson's name appeared in the lineup for the Arnold Classic 2020, catching fans and experts completely off guard. When he returned to competition, Johnnie was already 49 years old. In almost any other sport, that would sound unthinkable. In elite bodybuilding, it seemed nearly impossible. And yet, there he was, proving that longevity isn't just about genetics, but about mindset, discipline, and respect for your own body. Looking back at Johnnie Jackson's career as a whole, it becomes clear that he was an athlete who broke the traditional bodybuilding mold. In an era dominated by classic lines and refined aesthetics, Johnnie built his identity by going in the opposite direction, embracing density, brutality, and real strength as the trademarks of his physique. He was never just a bodybuilder focused on appearance. Johnnie became a true hybrid between bodybuilding and extreme strength, something incredibly rare at the professional level. Very few athletes have managed to prove, at the same time, excellence on stage and eye-opening numbers on the bar, and that combination is exactly what made him unique. His career also stands as a clear example of consistency and longevity. Year after year, even without being labeled the outright favorite, Johnnie was there, competing, resisting time, and standing up to new generations. That earned him something that goes beyond trophies, genuine respect within the sport. Even without ever winning bodybuilding's ultimate title, the Mr. Olympia, Johnnie Jackson built a solid and lasting name. He proved that impact isn't measured only by championships, but by the mark you leave on the sport's collective memory. Today, his legacy lives not just in rankings or statistics, but in the inspiration he offers to athletes and fans around the world. Johnnie's story leaves one final, powerful question behind. In the end, what truly makes an athlete great? Winning everything, or changing how the sport understands strength, longevity, and identity?